Yo, 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 you know what it is. It's a Knicks world, and we
Mm-hmm.
gotta get to it. I
Gotta
got
get
my
to
good
it.
brother, Chant, with me. How you feeling today, brother?
The vibes is here, man. You know what I'm saying? We outside Harlem. You feel me?
You inside Harlem, outside Harlem, speaking of being
Well, you see
outside.
these bricks outside. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I see a brick wall. I don't know. Like,
You know
you
what I mean?
definitely outside. I don't know.
Outside. You feel
Hopefully,
me? I'm outside.
nobody bothering you. Usually, I see a brick wall. I get worried like it's somebody gonna pin you up against it. You got cops frisking you and
Nah,
stuff.
nah, 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 nah.
You're not
Chill
doing no
vibes,
illegal
man.
activities, right, on the stream. You
Nah,
know,
nah, nah.
I don't want to be
You
implicated
gotta
on
keep.
you.
You know what I'm saying? Nah, 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 nah,
Good?
nah. No
Good over there?
implications, man. No implications. We good. We good.
All right. Speaking of good, yeah, we definitely gonna have a good show for you guys. Got a great guest. I'm gonna pull him right in. You guys know him very well, Jonathan Macri, the dean himself, the Knicks Film School. Jonathan,
Mm-hmm.
welcome to the show, man. Appreciate your time. I know you're
Appreciate you,
busy,
bro.
busy, busy time of
No,
the year. I don't know how we do it. We're crazy. As Knicks fans.
no, man, it's all good. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm gonna start by outing myself because I was supposed to come on, I guess, a few days ago, and I am like always try to honor any commitment I make, and I just something happened on my end that I couldn't make it, and I felt awful about it. So happy to finally being able to join you now, and yeah, man, we'll get into a lot of stuff going on. That's for sure.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And honestly, everything happens for a reason.
Right.
We a lot of things. I'm very much I'm very much a grace giving person. So I give myself grace always. I mean, I got to give you grace. I know how busy you are. I know what you do as well. And so like shout out to you for what you do in your personal life.
Thank
You
you.
guys do not get enough flowers. My wife also, she's in your field as well.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
appreciate that. Thank you.
we got you for a good time, not a long time. So we want to get right into this. John, man, Heartbreak City end of the season.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Talk to me, man. What went wrong? I guess in your opinion. Let's start with. I guess let's. Yeah, we'll let you start.
Yeah,
What went
sure.
wrong? Where did it start? Did it start at game one? Did it start? What went wrong?
Um,
You know,
I mean, we could talk about. I mean, you could talk about specifics in the Indiana series about like they couldn't stop him in transition. They couldn't ever, when it really mattered, string together stops with Brunson and Cat on the floor. They could maybe never get like that right lineup out there
right?
that you felt like was like just a two-way beast that really was like paying dividends on both ends. We could talk about game one, which I don't even know what needs to be said about game one at this point. And like, I get that, like, we're at now the point, especially after what Indiana did at game one of the finals, where it's like, oh, this is just who the Pacers are. They did it in game one against the Thunder, against the Knicks. They did it to the Cavs once/twice. They did it to the Bucks a couple times. With all due respect to all of those other situations, there was game one against the Knicks, and then there was a gap, and then there was everything else. Like that game one against the Knicks was in a different tier of just complete and total breakdown on multiple fronts, whether you want to go to the 16-point lead with whatever it was, 3.5 minutes to go, whether you want to go to the 8-point lead with 30 some odd seconds to go. I mean, it's just in no way, shape, or form can't happen. And then we could go to back to September, when they made the Karl Anthony Towns trade and they decided, all right, we're going to give it a run and try to pair these two subpar defenders and see if we can make it work by hook or by crook. So like, it really is like kind of beauty. Well, not in this case beauty, but like in the eye of the beholder. It's like, what is like, how do you view basketball? Do you view basketball big picture in the macro? Do you view it in the micro? I mean, the reality to me, this is just me, is I think we're talking about like it's funny. It's weird to hear you say like, where did it all go wrong?
Right.
Because I think you could just as easily say if a basketball bounces 2 inches to the left or 2 inches to the right,
Yeah.
we're not having this conversation
Right.
because the Knicks are still playing basketball. In my heart, I believe that. Does that mean that the Knicks were legitimate championship contenders in the way that they are / were constructed, in the way that they were coached? Like, I don't know that. I mean, I know Indiana's up 2-1 right now, but I think that's a lot more about Indiana than it is about Oklahoma City. And maybe I'm in the minority there, but like for me, when I think back to this season, I'm going to think about two things. I'm going to think about game 1 against the Pacers, and I'm going to think about the fact that at no point in time did I feel that we ever watched a basketball team that was truly hitting its stride, where all of their pieces were healthy and you were seeing something on both ends of the floor that was repeatable against really good teams. And they deserve all the credit in the world for getting as far as they did, beating Boston in the manner they did, even beating Detroit in the manner they did. But you never saw that level of play that, frankly, we've seen from the Pacers for the better part of like 4 or 5 months. You know, that's for me, that's the difference between these two teams. Does it mean the Knicks are more talented than the Pacers? No, but who cares, frankly? Like, is that what matters? No, to me, it's not.
I think you hit everything. Like you summed it up perfectly. You can go back to the start. And personally, how I look at it, especially with my take now, I said coming into the series, this present one, the finals, if the Pacers beat the Oklahoma City Thunder, this team should run it back since we've made our major change. I personally believe that it looked like it was a continuity issue. Now, obviously, you're changing a coach. You're changing some continuity. But we've seen when Dante DiVincenzo was added, and it wasn't a big, the Knicks did nothing. The Knicks did do something. They added a player that already had continuity with the players, and they're also going into another year to have that continuity. Continuity was lost last year. As you just said earlier, we've never really found that moment where we're gelling at no point in the season, I think. And we still won 51 games. It's mind-blowing now. Game 1, if you hold on to the ball a little bit longer, you're not rushing like you're down. A lot, if I don't want to call out specific players. I'm not going to do that. I've done it on the timeline. People know my stance, but obviously coaching, I believe, was a major part of what went wrong. Shout out to Indiana Pacers. They had a good team. They're running 13 dudes. They are deep.
They play a lot of guys.
Yeah, they do. They talk about that in the finals too. They're saying Indiana is just incredible how they're literally having so many guys just run amok. Everybody's ending it. Even Obi Toppin at the end of the games is ending it, hitting threes and running his route and not taking nothing away from his game. But he wasn't doing that for us. But you got opportunity over there, Indiana.
Let's be a little bit objective here now. The Knicks, I'm saying on Obi Toppin, obviously we gave him away for 2 second rounders. The Knicks seem to kind of have this, at least just my personal view, like we can do what we want, and it is what it is. I mean, like we can give away Obi Toppin, we'll be fine. We can throw Dante DiVincenzo in a trade. We can coach now, and we're check around the league. Nobody else would do that, but I personally think it's smart. But what would you say towards the view of it looking like very, maybe even arrogant, people would say, looking, is this one of the reasons why people hate New Yorkers, right? Like, what would you say that? Do you see a whole different perspective?
I don't know that I would I mean, look, I think the Leon Rose regime,
amazing.
Based on overall, it's been very good.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you look at the last calendar year in total, including the events of the last few weeks, maybe especially the events of the last few weeks, I think it is very fair to criticize them. I don't know that arrogant would be one of the first words that would come to my mind. And I think if there's any move that you could characterize as arrogant, the Bridges and the Towns trades, respectively, if you wanted to label either or both of them as arrogant, you could, from the perspective of in a league where you give up this sort of pick package for a superstar player and only a superstar player, we are going to give it up for a role player who is granted supposed to be, it should have been in their estimation, the best. I mean, really, if you want to say the best role player in the league, which maybe by definition makes him something more than a role player, but like we're going to give it up for a guy who's never made an all-star team and probably will never make an all-star team. And then the Cat part of it is, well, this guy's been in the league for 9 years. No coach has ever really been able to figure out how to maximize him on offense in a way that is sustainable on a winning team. We're going to figure it out. And not only are we going to figure it out, we're going to figure it out with one of the most defensively challenged point guards in the league. From that perspective, you could slap that label on it. I don't view what they did last summer in that way. I view those. I think they felt like that was their summer to make a move. Now we could get into some of the reasons why they felt last summer was their summer to make a move. I do think the cap had something to do with it, and specifically the fact that Mikal Bridges was not going to be on a new contract for 2 years, and they are, like every contending team in the NBA, trying to put off significant apron issues for a goodly amount of time, or as long as possible. I think that had a amount to do with it. You know, did that influence whether Jalen was going to take the extension he did or not? We don't know. We could assume. Yeah. And then the Cat thing was just about, hey, we could pay 125 or 130 cents on the dollar for a center that we really don't love, or we could go and make this deal for this center, see how it goes this year, and then with the understanding that we're going to have this core together for 4 years, if we need to make a pivot, if we need to, formulate more moving forward with Cat at the 4 instead of the 5, we could do that. So it's, again, I would not use the term arrogant. Do I think that they have made missteps along the way? Absolutely. That's literally every team in basketball has made missteps, and most of them have made at least one significant misstep. Like the Obi thing, does it look great that they traded him for what they traded him for? No. Yeah. But do I think, like, everybody in the league knew that Obi Toppin was on the trade block, right? So everybody, if they wanted Obi Toppin, all they had to do was make a phone call and say, hey, what are you looking for here? And do I think the Knicks, when they got those phone calls, were like, no, you know what, we're going to go with this other shittier offer? No, they took the best deal available. Now, we could get into the wisdom of like, well, how much of that was because of their how much they valued Obi as a person. They wanted to maintain that relationship. They wanted to do right by a CAA guy. They wanted to send him somewhere where he at least had a potential chance to start, which he did in Indiana. We get into all that. We could also get into the fact that if they don't trade Obi Toppin and trade Obi Toppin's salary, they don't have the money to sign Dante DiVincenzo. Right. So that's a whole nother issue. Right. They kind of sort of needed to offload him. And again, I'm assuming that was the best deal. DiVincenzo, like they desperately wanted to hang on to DiVincenzo, but Minnesota wasn't making that deal without DiVincenzo going out. So then again, it gets into like, all right, are you going to go and trade for Clint Capella, instead? And that, you're probably sending Randall out in that deal, or you're going to just go the extra mile. So yeah, I don't know that I would agree with your characterization in terms of where they're at now with the coach, and they fired a coach who was obviously a very good coach without obviously having a clear replacement in mind. Mm-hmm. I think that is more a reflection of there was a situation in their organization that enough people felt could not continue as currently constituted, and that there was going to be hell to pay this summer. Like, I just had Ian on my pod yesterday, and he spoke. I would encourage everybody to go watch him because I'm not about to put words in his mouth. I would just encourage everybody to go watch, because he he spoke very delicately and carefully about Dolan's impact and influence during the exit meetings and in the decision to let go of Tom Thibodeau and all of that. And it is very clear to me, at least, that like Dolan got involved because he was less than happy with what he saw. And I've been a Knicks fan for over 30 years. James Dolan has been the owner of the team for the majority of that time. And I know one thing very clearly from things that have been reported, and then from countless stories I've heard off the record from people who have had direct dealings with the man. If he is not happy, something is going to change. There is going to be some hell to pay from someone. And so if he wasn't happy and there needed to be some penance to pay for that, then all right, well, what are we doing here? We're either getting rid of the coach or we're turning our eyes on the front office who went and traded for these guys, and we're putting the blame on the Mikal Bridges and the Karl Anthony Towns and whatever else you want to put the blame on, in which case, guess who's holding the bag then? The front office. Right. So, look, they saw it. There were certain coaches that clearly were not in line with what Tibbs wanted to do. They were. It was blatantly obvious to me, at least, that there were some people that just did not respond to him in the way that you need to have a true championship-winning team, and that's why he's out of a job. So, that's fine. That's totally fine. But I just to go back to your original question, like, I don't think it's them being arrogant. I think it was just a situation where it's like someone had to go. It was certainly easiest to get rid of the coach, and now he's gone, and now they have to figure out what to do next.
Yeah, I looked at it like that. I looked at that as well, because everybody knew the issue that you seen with him and Mikal during the season. You seen the issue that you had with Josh, that they threw one under the bridge on that. And then when the report came out,
I don't think he had what situation with Josh?
When they were arguing each other on the bench.
That was not
right. And
Josh Hart worships Tom Thibodeau and likewise, or vice versa.
Yeah, they were saying there's water under the bridge, nothing to see it, but reporters picked it up or whatever. It was during the game.
But when I tell you that Josh Hart very much wishes Tom Thibodeau was still his coach, I promise you that's the case. Yeah. There were certain players in the locker room who loved Tibbs, and Josh is one of them.
Yeah, I believe it. They said, actually, it's funny that you said that, because they did say Jalen and Josh were the ones who didn't speak up about Tibbs to Dolan, but it was 7 players that was unanimous that wasn't happy with the whole situation, and they spoke up to Dolan about Tibbs. And that's kind of what got everybody in a frenzy.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's if you want to boil it down to why this team wasn't successful, and it's fun, it's weird. It's a very strange thing to say when the team this year went a round further than the team last year. Yeah. But I think all of us as fans, and we just kind of know what we're seeing. There was a certain something that the 2023-24 team had.
Yes,
they overcame a lack of talent. Right. This year's team underperformed their talent. And I think the biggest reason for that is that on that team, you had Isaiah Hartenstein, Dante DiVincenzo, in addition to Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson. To say nothing of the fact, like Alec Burks. Alec Burks was on this team. Alec Burks, is a big Tibbs fan. And all of those guys, they did everything that was asked for them, and they never complained.
And to your point,
said most players are not like that.
If a ball it bounces a little bit to Tibbs is probably still our coach. Like in the alternate,
I think he would, if they won the series, he would certainly still be the coach.
Yeah.
I look at it this way. I look at it like those 7 players that spoke up. I feel like they looked at it like, okay, well, yeah, we are winning, right? But not at the expense of us. We're not getting the opportunity to even contribute to this winning, because they would be playing in June, and maybe that's how they felt.
Yeah, I mean, look, I actually don't even know the report you're talking about. There's a lot of stuff out there. I kind of tend to stick to just what the beat reporters say, and if it's not from a beat reporter, then I don't really tend to give it much mind. Look, but if you told me that there were 7 players on the roster that were unhappy with Tibbs, I'd probably be like, that's it, because like Tibbs is not a coach that the majority of players are not going to like Tom Thibodeau. Because he's a pain in the ass, and he does not care what you want for yourself. He could give two shits less about that. He only cares about what he feels is in the best interest of the team. And if you are not like, and if he gets that from everybody, things usually go well. But that's really hard and really rare in the NBA today. And most of the time, it feels like we're trending in a direction where you need coaches who have a little bit more of a kid's glove approach. In that way, he was the last of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
You don't have coaches like Scott Skiles are not employed in the NBA anymore. Like you have coaches more like Ime Udoka. Ime Udoka's a hard ass. Ime Udoka didn't play Reed Shepherd at all this year, but you see the way that Ime Udoka is with his players, and there's a little bit more of a, I don't want to say like a sensitive approach, but that's the impression I get, at least when I watch. Like that's not Tibbs. That's never going to beat Tibbs, and that doesn't go only for the players. It goes for his relationship with the front office. He's not going to humor someone in the front office. It doesn't matter who they are, and it doesn't matter what their opinion is. If he doesn't feel like it's a valid thing, he's just going to go on about his merry way. And there's a lot of people in the Knicks organization who want to feel like their voice is valued. And especially if they're the people that went out and made the trades of last summer. And then they're like, all right, well, we made these trades, but now you don't want to hear our input about how best to make sure that those trades look the best. And then you get in a situation like this where essentially they were, I think, looking for I don't say looking for reasons to get rid of him for a while, but like clearly, I don't think my impression is that there were certain people in the front office who were very much not heartbroken by the decision to let go of Tibbs.
I feel like the whole thing, to be honest, personally, I didn't see Tibbs getting fired. The whole thing was pretty shocking to me. I know people were like, oh, you had a lot of people, oh, Tibbs is getting fired. I'm like, it's not happening. Like, it's not happening. It took a James Dolan decision to, I mean, based off the people that we love that, report, shout out to James, shout out to Fred, who reported that they believe obviously are the people that said different. I trust those guys as well. I think there was some smoke there. It felt very much so like an emotional, this isn't it. We're 2 games away from the finals. And yeah, you're right. It was too many. At one point, there was too many report that it was like 2 years ago or something like that. And I think Fred was covering at the time. Well, maybe just a year ago then. There's too many chefs in the kitchen.
There's still a lot of chefs.
Yeah. There's still a lot. Like, no, who is, like, dude, who is our G? I know Rojas is supposed to be but like, who?
I mean, the reporting during the Donovan Mitchell thing was like, they would, the Jazz would be, on whatever, so someone would call and like it might be a different person who picks up the phone. You might get a different answer on different day. I mean, that stuff is just like, look, I'm not going to sit here and worry about that stuff. I think their track record as a front office is like, at the very least, they're very competent. And like you can question the Mikal Bridges trade. You could question the Karl Anthony Towns trade. You could question a couple other things that they've done. But like this front office clearly has a general baseline where it's like, okay, they know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. This situation now is, again, it's tough to judge them for anything that is going on or anything that happened with the Tibbs firing for me, because Dolan was involved in some form or fashion. Now, once Tibbs was fired, again, they don't have a coach. So now they're going about their business and trying to obviously find the best coach. And there's obviously a lot of criticism, I think, amongst national media people, at least, as to how they're going about that. I don't know that I like the whole due diligence thing is frankly just amusing to me, because think about all, like, if I came home tomorrow and asked my wife, hey, hon, we don't have any plans tomorrow night. Why don't we have a gangbang with the neighbors? And she look at me like, are you on crack? I'm sorry, what? No, whoa, wait, hold on. I'm just doing my due diligence. That's all. That's all it is. Like,
I'm just kicking the tires.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, how do I know what the answer is going to be if I don't ask the question? Yeah. So like, I think it's kind of funny. Like, the reality of the situation is that they would have, I think, liked someone like Ime Udoka or Chris Finch or Jason Kidd to be their next head coach, as they should. Those guys are awesome coaches, and they're really respected around the league. And I think the whole due diligence party line is just kind of trying to mask the fact that, like, Leon Rose is not is probably not going to get exactly what he wants here, because look, they're going to wind up hiring a good coach, whether it's Mike Brown or Taylor Jenkins or whoever, and that person's going to be very good. And the reasons that person succeeds or fails, it probably won't have all that much to do with like their particular X's and O's ability. But what I don't want to hear from the front office or from Knicks fans is this party line of like, Leon Rose, he had it all along. Tibbs struggles to, develop a cohesive offensive system. Hire Mike Brown, great offensive mind. That was the plan all along. No, that wasn't the plan all along. He would have rather had Ime Udoka. He would have rather had Chris Finch. He would have rather had Jason Kidd. And if I'm being really cynical, I might even speculate that they're asking the likes of Billy Donovan and Quinn Snyder, or asking those teams for permission to speak to those guys, is more to like make this whole due diligence facade look a little bit more realistic. Like, oh, no. It's not just that we wanted those 3 high profile guys. We're asking everybody in the league, but that's neither here nor there. Look, they're trying to get the best coach they can. Yeah. Is it going to be the coach maybe they thought they would end up with at the beginning of this process? Probably not. I don't think that they go back in time and rehire Tibbs. They would. And nor again, to be very clear, nor should they. Like, the thing had run its course. Like, it was an untenable situation. It doesn't matter whose fault it was. Now just go out and try to get the best coach you can.
Yeah.
For that now personally, I think that this whole due diligence thing, this is, and shout out to James Edwards again, and he references on to the article not even the article, the video where he says the Knicks will not come back in the series. We were down 3-1. He says he obviously got a lot of flack for that video. Sometimes our bosses ask us to do things we don't want to do. I personally believe that this is one of those things. I personally, Dolan, go out there, go try to get Spo, go try to get whoever you can. I think this is your boss telling you, hey, go kick the cans. I don't care if you hear or no. I want you to go out there and do it. I don't care if you look silly for it. I want you to go out there and do it. No proof.
Rattle the trees, shake the bushes.
Yeah, I don't have any proof, no anything on this. This is just what I think, just is based off of what happened.
You think Dolan is the one telling them to go call all these teams?
Yes. I think Dolan said, I want you to go out there and try to get the best coach. I don't care if you have to pick. Okay, boss. Okay. All right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Why haven't we heard reports that they've asked permission to speak to Eric Spoelstra or Ty Lue or Mark Dagnall or Rick Carlisle or I'm trying to think there's other good coaches that I'm forgetting, but like any of Joe Mazzulla, Kenny Atkinson, like these are all awesome coaches. Why only coaches that if you squint, you could be like, I could see maybe he wants to get away? Because if you're being selective about who you're going out and asking permission to talk to, and the reason you're doing that is because you're like, well, the Heat aren't going to let Spo go. Well, then it's actually not due diligence. Then it's like, no, we're calling these people because we really think that we want them for the job, and we think that there's a chance that we can get them for the job. And again, if we're really doing the whole, if it's just about like, oh no, just make the phone call or whatever. Why was there 3 or 4 days between the report that the Knicks were planning to ask the Dallas Mavericks to talk to Jason Kidd, and then the final the Knicks requested permission from the Dallas Mavericks to speak to Jason Kidd and were denied? Might it have been because over that time, the Knicks were trying to backchannel their way into convincing Jason Kidd to go to his bosses and be like, hey, I want to coach the Knicks. When they ask for permission, I want you to tell them okay. Ultimately, that didn't happen. Now, might it still happen? Steve Popper indicated yesterday, I think it was, that maybe that was still a possibility, or at least the Knicks still believed that that was a possibility. Whether it does or doesn't happen, the fact that all that time passed was very clear that there was stuff going on behind the scenes.
Right.
Again, that's not due diligence. We want Jason Kidd to be our coach.
Yeah.
We're doing everything in our power behind the scenes from our position to get Jason Kidd to be our coach. But now that the permission has been denied, guys, we're just calling around, man. That's all. We're just making phone calls. We're just asking questions.
Leave the door cracked.
Like it's again, this is all fine. Go out and do everything you can to find your coach, but don't try to sell me this bill of goods that we're just gonna keep the Rolodex and making phone calls. This is all par for the course, and then eventually we'll just land on a name, and that's gonna be the name, that we will have wanted all along. You can't have it both ways. Like, you fire your coach, you're in a jam not in a jam, but you have to find a new one, and you may not get your first or second or third or fourth choice.
Yeah,
this is hilarious.
I think it's hilarious. Obviously, the Knicks. There's a lot of different ways you can look at it, especially when you're the only team that has a vacancy right now. Why not just call? Maybe I'm just being a little naive, but why not call everybody? Just at least. I mean, everybody.
The draft is in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know that's a thing too. Do you think the Knicks have to do they feel? I personally don't. Do they think that they need to have a coach in place by the draft, given especially Leon's 2 months search with Tibbs?
I don't think this is lasting 7 weeks. Do they need to have someone? Someone asked me that in a mailbag question for the newsletter, which I'm in the process of writing for tomorrow. We've heard for a little while now from different reporters that a lot of stuff's going to go down on draft night. Ideally, if there's a potential for you to make a big trade involving a key member of your roster on draft night, I would think that you would want to have the coach in place for that. But again, it doesn't look like Giannis is getting traded. Doesn't look like they want to have anything to do with Kevin Durant. So, maybe they don't see anyone out there who might be on the table that where they feel like they need a coach's input for, or maybe they're just so confident as a front office in what they've assembled / what they might do that they're like, yeah, it doesn't matter who the coach is. We feel confident in any trade they're going to make. I don't know, but I would hope they would have someone in place.
I'm calling you up. You got the job. You got the job as the new Knicks GM. Fix the Knicks, John. Fix the Knicks. What are you doing? And obviously, we know we don't have our full taxpayer, mid-level exception. But
no, you do. You will have the taxpayer. You will have the taxpayer mid-level.
We won't have the non. Sorry, we'll have $5 million or something like that to play with, or
5.7.
5.7. What are you doing with that? Obviously, fix the Knicks. What coach do you want? Fix the Knicks. Are you interested in Kevin Durant? Are you? We'll get you out of here after this, but
yeah. I
got the job.
The coach, look, Mike Brown's a good coach. Taylor Jenkins is a good coach. Frank Vogel's a good coach. Ian brought up Mike Woodson to me on my pod yesterday. I'm sure people cringed at that. Mike Woodson's a good. You know what Mike Woodson does? Mike Woodson gets along with players brilliantly. And if you want to there was a lot of people who had a lot of issues with Tibbs's X's and O's and rotations and stuff this year. Tibbs doesn't have a job today because there were certain players who he did not connect with at all and could not get to buy in to everything he was selling all the time. So Mike Woodson, you know what? He's better at that. I don't want to say I don't care who they hire as coach, but I don't think I care nearly as much as most Knicks fans. I think Vogel's actually a really interesting name, and he's again, that dude's a good coach. The situation in Phoenix was such a disaster. That's not on him. That dude could coach. Personally, I think Mike Brown or Taylor Jenkins might probably be my first two of the people that seem realistic candidates at this point.
What about Budenholzer?
As far as the what's that?
Budenholzer. That was another name that just came up earlier.
I don't know. something about how the last few, like how things ended in Milwaukee, like they were going to fire him if they did not win the championship the year that they did. That was like out and out reported. And I don't think anyone's ever denied that. Now he obviously won the championship, but I don't know for like I can't fully articulate why. I just have maybe a little bit of a bad feeling about that. So I wouldn't go as much with Budenholzer.
Right.
That's just me.
Right.
He's a good coach. As far as the roster goes, you know, I just don't like we're 10 years into Karl-Anthony Towns' career.
Mm-hmm.
Defensive consistency is just never going to be a thing that you're going to be able to rely on.
Coaches,
whether he plays the 5, whether he plays the 4, you're just, with the level of offensive sophistication that exists in the league right now, it's just that's not going to get any better. Jalen Brunson is not going to magically become a better defender all of a sudden. That is what it is. So you have this fundamental issue that you're going to try to navigate. And I understand a lot of the conversation, and justifiably so, has been about, all right, well, how do you fix Tibbs didn't get enough out of the offense this year. They scored 116.2 or 3 or 4, whatever it was, points against the Indiana per 100 possessions against Indiana Pacers in the conference finals. The next best offense against Indiana in these playoffs is at 113.0. They've scored far better against the Pacers than any other offense in these playoffs, and that includes the Cleveland Cavaliers, who set the record for all-time NBA offense this year, and the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are pretty good offense in their own right, to say nothing of the Bucks and Giannis. So, yeah, they can improve the offense, and they should improve the offense, and the offense was not good enough this year. And I think that's a big part of it, but I guess my question then would be, so if you're going to if you're ostensibly going to continue to start OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Jalen Brunson, which if all 4 of those guys are here, they're all going to start, right?
Mm-hmm.
What evidence did we see that those 4 players can be like a copacetic unit together on the floor? I think something about it doesn't work. I think OG wants a little bit more than he's currently getting, at least with those other players on the roster. I think Mikal Bridges, I don't know what Mikal Bridges wants, but it's very clear he didn't get it this year, and so again, okay, so let's give some more shots to Mikal. Let's go some more shots to OG. Okay, great. Where are these shots coming from?
Right.
If Karl-Anthony Towns or Jalen Brunson are still on the roster, you're going to tell, you want Jalen Brunson to magically turn into Steve Nash, and instead of being a 25-7 guy, he's going to be a 19-11 guy. Okay, great. Jalen Brunson is probably my favorite Knick of all time at this point. I don't think he's going to magically become Steve Nash tomorrow. So again, how are you fundamentally changing the pieces here? Which is why I say this all as preface to say, if there was a world where they could have shipped out Karl-Anthony Towns and brought in Kevin Durant this summer, personally, that's a world that I would have at least been interested in exploring. It does not seem, for whatever reason, that this front office has any desire to do that, which, again, fine. Kevin Durant's going to be 37 years old. He's, he gets hurt. You'd have some defensive questions if he came in. I get all that. So that's fine. I don't know what the obvious move is. I don't think they're going to trade Mikal Bridges for let's say maybe 2 pieces, for instance. Let's get another 5 in here so you could have Cappy the 4 full time, and you could deploy Mitchell Robinson with this other 5, and then get maybe another wing or someone who's maybe a little bit stronger at the point of attack, or you start Deuce or whatever the case may be. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to send the guy out that they just traded 5 first-round picks for last summer for multiple pieces that together don't lift it up. I don't think they will trade OG Anunoby. I don't think they should trade OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby is awesome. They need him. They need his defense. They need, frankly, his 3-point volume at this point. We talked about Cat. It doesn't seem like they want to trade Cat. So yeah, you say I'm Leon Rose. Fix this. I think you probably just hope that the next coach has a more cohesive offensive system. You find someone with the taxpayer mid-level that can be a real rotation piece for you. who could come in and play 25 minutes a night, maybe even start. Is that a crazy assumption? Maybe not. I don't know. And then the other thing, this pains me to say this. You probably have to look at the Josh Hart trade market. Yeah. And I have a Josh Hart. I have like a here. I'll show you right here.
We love Josh Hart, man. Like
Josh Hart, my little piece of Josh Hart court that he allegedly played on. Shout out to Fanatics and Fanatics Fest. Like Josh Hart is, again, he's one of my favorite Knicks of all time.
Yeah.
But if there's a team out there, maybe a younger team, maybe a team that's trying to establish their own culture and needs that something that Josh Hart brings that there aren't 5 players in the entire league that bring, and you could, in exchange for Josh Hart, bring in, let's say, 2 rotation pieces who can play significant minutes for you, including maybe a shooter at the 2 who doesn't have like maybe the size limitations of a Deuce McBride. I think you probably have to look at that. And yet, as I say those words, I'm thinking about, okay, what was this team's problem this year? The locker room couldn't get on the same page, and you had a lot of, to use Josh Hart's words, different agendas, and priorities. So now we're going to ship out a guy who, for all of his imperfections, is only about the right things and only cares about winning and quite literally does not care about his stats at all. We're going to now trade him out, the guy who also happens to be the soulmate of your best player. So we're going to trade him because we're trying to improve the roster. It's like everywhere you turn, there's a different roadblock.
Yeah.
And again, maybe the answer is just run it back, sign someone tax pyramid level, hope a coach institutes a cleaner offensive system, and then you defend to a passable level, and you just outscore teams. Which, by the way, the last thing I'll say, I've been going on and on for a while. I apologize for that, but like, I know the lowlights against Indiana defensively were bad. They defend on the whole. I believe they defended well enough against the Pacers to win the series in the 6 games that we saw. I'm not saying they defended well. They did not defend well. I'm saying they defended well enough that if you got what you needed to, or what you should have theoretically gotten from this offense based on the talent alone, you could have won that series. Now, it doesn't mean they would have beaten Oklahoma City. I don't know. So, long answer.
Every game was like a statement game, like against us. You know what I'm saying? Game 1 was the comeback. Game 2 was Pascal. We won game 3. Game 4 was Halliburton. You know what I'm saying? Game 5 we won. Then game 6 they took us out.
Like, those guys are just they're that team.
Oh no, game 1 was Aaron Naismith with the 8 3-pointers.
It all comes back to game 1. It all comes back to game
8 3-pointers.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think that there's like some easy solution. And just to put it on the record, the notion that another coach is going to come in here and fix whatever issues exist. I mean, I think, again, a new coach can help. I think the new coach could get buy-in. I think the new coach can institute a better offensive system where they are a better offense. Maybe the pieces fit a little bit well together. I think the issues run deeper than just the coach, and I want to be very clear about that.
I agree. I think you summed it up kind of perfectly. We played a lot of different scenarios. I appreciate that. That's what you did. Go through that in your head. Go through the exercise.
Right.
That's all I think about, man.
It's not easy. Honestly, like, as fun as, as great as having you on, today was, this was kind of like, this conversation felt very much like a therapy session for Knicks fans. It's kind of like,
that's what I do.
No, it's great. It's great, and I hope you guys appreciate it.
Absolutely.
World. I don't know what the fix is. I think you're kind of. That's why one of the first things I said was, you just run back the team. Obviously not run back the exact team. What I mean by run back the team, you bring back the core pieces. If you can add a guy, you do mid-level exception. You made your big move was getting rid of the coach. Maybe there's more moves. I just don't see how. I don't know. We don't have to worry about that. We're gonna fan.
No, you know what? Let me just say one more quick thing. Like, again, we tend to forget about this stuff the further away we get from it. But like, they campaign got minutes for what was it, the first 2 games
Yeah.
of the finals, right? Or of the Eastern Conference Finals. They were outscored, it felt like, by 8,000 points in those minutes. Like, maybe it's as simple as like next year, and it's, by the way, especially the opening 3 minutes of the fourth quarter of game 2, which is where they lost that game.
Right.
They were outscored by, I think, 9 points in those 3 minutes or something crazy like that. Like, maybe next year that isn't campaign, and again, blame Tibbs for this because he ran campaign out there as opposed to DeLon Wright, and DeLon Wright, or even, Landry Shamet or whatever. So if you want to blame Tibbs for that, blame Tibbs. It's fine. But like, maybe next year it's Tyler Kolek out there, and maybe instead of those minutes going so negative, maybe they're a positive. So maybe it's something small like that. It doesn't have to be a big thing, and maybe that'll be enough. We don't know. We don't know.
As a fan, I would like to believe that. Yes, I like to be objective, but I'm also, like I said, I'm a grace-giving person. I like to believe in continuity. I think things take time. You guys chant. I did not think we were going to make it this far.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody did.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, there were little fans, finals or bust, and I'm like, dude, we're not making the finals.
I said we're gonna click in the playoffs.
I did not ever think it was. Hats off to the Knicks, man. We made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. I know nobody wants to hear this right now. I didn't think it was going to happen. The fact that we made it there, and you got rid of your coach, who a lot of people wanted gone anyway. I think you're probably in a pretty good standing right now. As if you're a Knicks fan, obviously you still got the sour taste. We're watching Indiana Pacers in the finals. They're up.
They're in a good spot. Like, it's the East, there's no powerhouse. Like, barring a trade that I don't personally envision, I don't think there's going to be a powerhouse next year. Maybe we've been a little bit too quick to dismiss Cleveland, and I know the Garland injury now maybe complicates that even a little bit more, but I like that the opportunity is there. I have when I tell you I have all this respect in the world for this Indiana team, I was saying for months, I wanted nothing to do with Indiana in the first round. I wanted nothing. I just didn't want anything to do with Indiana, period. I had so much respect for that team going back to even before last year's playoff series. But like, even them, they are not some ungodly basketball superpower. There is a path for the Knicks to do something here, but they need to get the most out of what they have on the roster, and they never did that this year. They showed immense grit and toughness and the ability to take a punch and fight back. And I think the coach does not get nearly the credit for that aspect that he deserves, but it's neither here nor there. Like, I would hope, even with the new coach, that will continue, and I think Jalen Brunson being on the roster is a big part of that. And also Josh Hart. But again, it's like you're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul here. So again, no easy answers, but what's the saying? In Leon we trust. So I have to run, but I appreciate you guys having me on. This was great. It was good to talk it out.
Tell the good people where they can find your work if they've been living under a rock somewhere.
Yeah. No. Where can you find
stuff?
I don't really tweet anymore, but I'm still on X at what am I? JC Macri NBA, Knicks Film School YouTube channel, podcast. I got the Knicks Film School newsletter on Substack. You could subscribe to that. There's a free subscription, which you get a newsletter every Monday. And yeah, man, just I'm always around, giving takes. Some of the people agree with, some of the people don't like very much. But thanks for the time. And yeah, man, we'll have to do this again sometime.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming on the show.
For myself.
Be well, guys. Peace out.
The rest of the world, we're out of here.
Yes, sir.